Hello everyone! Do you know limb prosthetic can be divided into upper extremity prosthetic and lower extremity prosthetic? Fret not. Today we, Group 1, are going to present our video assignment entitled Lower Extremity Prosthetic. This video is going to be divided into 5 parts, which will be presented by us respectively. Before we proceed, please let us do a short introduction. Hi, my name is Eileen with metric number 2204607, and I will be presenting the introduction.
Hello, my name is Gino Di Philip Lasimbang. My matrix number is 220-60441, and I will be explaining about the functionality and the suitability of the lower extremity prosthesis.
Hi, my name is Chong Ziyang with matrix number of 220046664/1, and I will be presenting about addressing limitation in the treatment of disease.
Hello everyone, I'm Alia and I will presenting about the limitation of our medical devices and how it can be improved.
Hello guys, my name is Nur Atifah Hanan binti Nurizat. My metric number is 22006555/1, and I will be presenting about the conclusion of this video.
First of all, let me briefly introduce you to lower extremity prosthetic. A lower limb prosthesis is a prosthetic that replaces a part of the lower limb to restore lower limb functionality. They offer replacement for diverse degrees of amputation, including the hip, thigh, knee, ankle, and foot. Lower extremity prosthetic can be divided into 2 major subdivisions, which are transtibial and transfemoral. Transtibial prosthetic refers to a prosthetic that substitutes a leg lost below the knee, while transfemoral prosthetic is a prosthetic that substitutes a leg lost above the knee. Next, other than these 2 prosthetics, there are some other lower extremity cases, but it is less prevalent. For example, hip disarticulations, knee disarticulations, and ankle disarticulations. These are just extra knowledge to let you all know. Now, I will pass to my groupmate Ginogi for the next content of this video.
Thank you, Eileen, for that explanation. Now I will be explaining about the functionality and the suitability of the lower extremity prosthesis. So first is the functionality of the lower extremity prosthesis, or also known as prosthetic legs. So here I've listed a few points of the functions of a prosthetic leg. So firstly, it is a better alternative for amputees who are using wheelchairs or canes. This is because it is more convenient and less time-draining. So people or the amputees who are using prosthetic legs can overcome more difficult obstacles, such as using the stairs or getting in or off vehicles. Other than that, prosthetic legs are also able to return the prior ability to move freely to the patients. So lower extremity prosthesis also restores the patient's balance to stand or walk or even run like they used to. So here we have 2 types of lower limb prosthesis. So firstly is the transtibial prosthesis, which is below the knee. That means that the prosthetic leg is attached to the residual limb below the knee. The other type is the transfemoral prosthesis above the knee, which means the prosthetic leg is attached to the residual limb above the knee. So now I will be explaining about the parts of the transtibial prosthesis. So firstly, we have the sleeve or liner, which is a piece of cloth worn before inserting the residual limb into the socket. Next is the socket, which holds the prosthesis and the amputated limb together. And then we have the pylon, which connects the the socket to the foot. And lastly, we have the foot, which is a very crucial component of the prosthetic legs, as it helps the amputee in balancing. So now I will be explaining about the parts of a transfemoral prosthesis. So most of the parts are similar to the transtibial prosthesis. Only in transfemoral prosthesis they have 2 extra parts, which is the rotator and the knee joint. So the rotator is used to rotate the lower part of the prosthetic leg by 360 degrees in order to help the amputees with daily tasks such as getting out of cars or getting dressed. Second is the knee joint. So knee joint is basically a replacement for the knee and provides the same functions as a knee. Now I will be explaining about the suitability of the lower extremity prosthesis. So like all the other prostheses, the lower extremity prosthesis can be used for a very long time, as they are made from durable materials such as carbon fibers, acrylic, resin, titanium, silicone, aluminum, as well as thermoplastics. All these materials are used to ensure that the prosthetic leg does not break easily and injure the amputee. Although the prosthetic legs can last very long, most amputees need to obtain new ones as they grow. This is because the residual limbs might outgrow the socket of the prosthesis, and this might endanger their safety. Next is the lower limb prosthesis is always made specific for every amputee. Thus, accurate measurements of the residual limbs are very crucial in making a comparable and reliable prosthetic limb. Conventionally, the measurements are taken using the measuring tape, which are usually prone to error. So nowadays, with the help of technology, there are more convenient methods to obtain the measurements of the residual limbs. So here we have the volumetric imaging methods, which are extracapillary tomography, magnetic resonance imaging or MRI, and also ultrasound. So all these methods are easier and more time efficient, and they can obtain more accurate measurements, as they are less prone to error. So with these methods, we can produce more reliable and safe prostheses. Other than that, volumetric imaging methods also produces less waste than the conventional methods, which uses a lot of pass of pairs during the casting process.
Thank you, Ginodi, for explaining the functionality and sustainability of prosthetic. Now, I'm going to talk about addressing limitation in the treatment of disease. The diabetes mellitus patients increase drastically year by year due to the variety of causes, including population growth, demographic aging, increasing of obesity statistic, urbanization, and physical inactivity. Therefore, the rate of blood flow through peripherals decrease results in poor recovery and weak sensation, and these symptoms are the main cause of amputations on lower limbs. The high blood pressure, the high blood glucose levels due to the insufficiency of insulin produced by pancreas, causing the glucose cannot convert completely into energy, leading to have diabetes. Therefore, the inability to maintain healthy blood glucose levels is called diabetes. From the chat given, it is sad to see that the pervasiveness of diabetes in Malaysia in 1960 till 2006 increased drastically. Of that, prosthetic rehabilitation is required for amputee to gain independence with the most systematic step possible. The consideration must be taken into account is the physical capacity, amputation level, psychological status, pre-amputation function, existing medical condition, and patient's expectations. Therefore, amputees should have pre-prosthetic exercise which help to improve the strength of muscle in lower limb for the preparation using prosthetic limb. The abdominal and back exercise should also be taken by amputees to help trunk control and reduce back arch. Lastly, the pre-prosthetic limb exercise is the most important activity to prevent the occurrence of prosthetic gait division. These exercises need to be done by amputees because their center of gravity over foot of non-prosthetic side is shift due to the loss of limb. Even though people first thought of prosthetic is about amputation, there still have people who get confused that prosthetic and orthotic are the same due to the function of prosthesis and orthosis in helping patients that have difficulty of locomotion due to the deficiency or deformities. But unfortunately, these two medical devices are exactly different. The key factor that differentiates prosthesis from orthosis is that orthosis is a medical device that used to correct the part of body, while prosthesis is a medical device which helps to replace losing part of body, especially limb. Besides that, prosthesis helps to restore particular part of body function by making artificial limb using computer-aided systems. Meanwhile, orthosis treats patients without and brace to enhance quality and effect. Lastly, prosthesis is a permanent device while orthosis is temporary device, which is supported the skeletal, muscle or nervous system without replacing any part of the body. And now I will pass to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you, Zia. So for now, I will proceed our presentation, which is I will explain about the limitation of this kind of medical device and how it can be improved. So, unfortunately, from the research that have been made, there is some of the limitation that we have been found in the leg prothesis, which is some of the users actually they might be experiencing the hyperhidrosis, which means that there is excessive sweat at the part of leg. Consequently, too much sweat can cause the internal part in that kind of the medical device to slip down, and it might be compromise the suspension of the prothesis as well. Plus, when this occurs, it affects the suspension, which means that it will cause the socket to fit differently, and definitely this kind of thing will cause the residual limb to move away from the socket. Next, the limitation of the leg prosthetic is it will changing the residual limb shape. Usually, the changes of the residual limb it occurs in the first year of the amputation. Actually, it is because of the tissues are going to settle down itself into its permanent shape. As stated from the research that we have been made, the socket fit that have been made as a part of the things that contribute to the leg prosthesis actually can be affected because of the size of the residual limb has changed. Consequently, it can lead to the harmful at the socket, and the actual design of the socket will be slowly dysfunctional. which means that there will be an increase in the injuries of the missing limb and will disturb the blood flow at the part of the residual limb. Lastly, it also causes the phantom limb pain. Phantom limb pain, known as the pain that comes from the bodily component that is no longer existed. The damage that's specifically in the nerve part actually changes the central nervous system when their leg gets amputated, as some parts of our brain actually still can integrate the information that comes from the non-existent limb and it is still functioning. So this is why it is created a great illusion of the phantom limb, although the amputees might assume that it is not real. Actually still can be improved because the protheses out there and the scientists have been improving it to the myoelectric limb. Myoelectric limb, or we call it as a myoelectric prosthesis, actually it has motors and also the batteries to power on the board to power the movement of the devices that are ultimately controlled by the input from the electrical signals that generated by the muscles into the residual limb. So when the muscles are contracted, they give off and the electrical signals and send them to the controller, which it can trigger the movement to correspond to what the users are intent. Next, in order to improve the medical device, specifically to reduce the hypohidrosis, actually they have been designed the prosthetic soles, which the fabric of that kind of sole is breathable and is the breathable fabrics, which make the sweat that have been secreted from the skin will dry soon as possible, and it will sweat away from the skin. And it also contains the Coolmax, which is the function of the Coolmax in the soles actually can avoid the sweating from being too much severe or serious, especially in the sunny days. So in terms of the materials, they also add on the magnetomicrometry in the leg prosthetic. So a research team at the MIT is developing a minimally technology using a magnetic beads to track tissue strain in real time, which is this kind of things called magnetomicrometry. Actually, it can provide the natural reliable control of the prosthesis, exoskeletons, and the stimulated muscle. This new technology actually it can track a pair of magnetic beads embedded within the muscle using a mobile sensing array, which allows a nuanced movements of each muscle to be tracked individually with remarkable speed and accuracy. So that's all from me, and I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hello guys, I'm sure all of you have gone through all the interesting explanation from my group members. Now you already know what is the lower extremity prosthesis, how its functionality and suitability, how it can address limitations in the treatment of disease, and what are its limitations and how it can be improved. So in my part, I will make a little bit of conclusion for this video. Now we have come to the end of our presentation. In summary, lower extremity prosthesis is very important for those amputees who has lost their leg or had a lower limb amputation due to accidents, diseases, or disabilities since birth. The presence of lower extremity prosthesis gives them a chance to hope that they can walk again or live their life as usual. Seeing as the world of technology becoming more sophisticated day by day, now there are many prostheses that work with robotic systems that use in a variety of different fields and long distance, but still its ability to work remains optimal to meet the convenience of the users. Last but not least, for those amputees, you guys are advised to see Dr. Protheses after the amputation to receive expert guidance on the healing process or advice on the suitability of the using of this. Thank you for listening to our video. I hope all of you guys get a lot of information from this video.